This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome to the Special Chronicles Podcast. My name is Daniel Smrokowski. I'm the founder and host of Special Chronicles, our website, specialchronicles.com. To follow Special Chronicles on socials and wherever you get your podcasts. This week on the Special Chronicles Podcast, Spread the Word Day of Activation is this week, March 5th. We think the world would be better if everyone were included. Around the world, exclusion and discrimination continue to divide people with and without intellectual and developmental disabilities. We are changing that with grassroots action for inclusion. That's Spread the Word. This year, you can engage and activate in multiple ways by choosing your focus: derogatory language, bullying, or inclusive action. To help you understand why the Spread the Word campaign is important, we are rebroadcasting a few episodes this month that will highlight the importance of why you should join us in the Spread the Word campaign. Visit SpreadTheWord.Global to access resources and sign the pledge and grab your official gear. Together, let's create a more inclusive world. This week, our focus is on derogatory language, and we bring you a rebroadcast conversation with Soeren Palumbo, co-founder of Spread the Word. The following episode has been previously broadcasted.
This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
This is Soeren Palumbo, co-founder of Spread the Word to End the Word, and you're listening to Special Chronicles. Find out more about Special Chronicles at specialchronicles.com.
You're listening to the Special Chronicles Podcast, episode 134. This episode is brought to you by Pace Suburban Bus. Everyday Pace helps more people with disabilities to take control of their day with a fixed route system that has over 200 routes that are entirely accessible to people with disabilities. You can learn more at pacebus.com. That's pacebus.com.
Every American, every citizen of the world should just be aware of learning disabilities.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time to stand. It starts with a voice.
You're listening to the Special Chronicles Podcast. This is a show where we're podcasting disability stories from an insider's perspective, and we are giving a voice to people with special needs. And kind of on this week's show, we sit down with our friend Soeren Palumbo, co-founder of Spread the Word to End the Word, plus lots of news stories, including a visit to my C-Sport team's basketball game. A board of director Adam for Special Chronicles celebrates his birthday this week. Plus, listener feedback about the R-Word column that I wrote this week, and lots more news to share coming on this week's episode 134. Everybody, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Daniel, and welcome back to the Special Chronicles Podcast. It's good to be back for another week. And joining us virtually in studio is our friend Soeren. Welcome, Soeren, to the show.
Thanks, Daniel. I'm excited to be here.
So, long time listeners may remember you. I think you were a guest on one of our first episodes back in, I think it was 2010, I believe.
That sounds right.
So, but why don't we get started?
My advice would be to just try your hardest.
And it takes a lot of training to start the World Games.
I have a learning disability, it's education across the board for everyone, every American, every citizen of the world should just be aware of learning disabilities.
So, I don't know how many listeners may remember your story, but and I'm sure we have a lot of new listeners because we now have over 22,000 visitors to SpecialChronicles.com since we started. And I think I started Special Chronicles probably around the time that you and Tim had started the campaign. So share with us an introduction about yourself to our listeners.
Sure. So I grew up in Northern Illinois, around Chicago, and grew up with a younger sister named Olivia, who has been diagnosed with intellectual disabilities, as well as a couple other younger sisters. And I grew up being very close to her and seeing the incredible gifts and effects that she had on my family, on me personally, and saw that on the one hand, but on the other hand also saw how other people didn't seem to be interested in valuing those gifts, or didn't seem to be interested in listening to what she had to say. And like a lot of people with intellectual disabilities, we dealt with the discrimination, the prejudice that came her way because of her diagnosis. And one thing that I was particularly put off by, or particularly caught by, was the use of the R word. I think that there's a lot of the prejudice against people with intellectual disabilities can sometimes be really complicated and hard for people to understand. But I think that even for a 10-year-old me, even if I couldn't understand the prejudice that was directed towards my sister, I understood what people meant when they looked at her and called her a retard. Yeah. And I knew that it wasn't good. And I knew that part of what I wanted to do as an older brother was make a better world for her to live in. And one concrete thing that I could try to do was let other people know what was going on with this one word. So when I was in high school, I had an opportunity to talk about it, and gave a speech about it, talked about my sister Olivia, and that went up on YouTube, became kind of a viral thing. Two friends shared it, each with two more friends, who each shared it with two more friends, and snowballed. And a couple years after that, I was working with Special Olympics directly, and we worked with Timbo Shriver, and the two of us designed Spread the Word to End the Word, and we launched it in 2009, and we just had our 7th annual Spread the Word to End the Word Day of Engagement. So we've seen it come a long way.
Neat. So you mentioned some of your backstory of how it started, but what do you feel Spread the Word to End the Word is important? I'm sure that there's a lot of, I think I saw those over 500,000 pledges online, plus a lot of people probably signed a banner at the school or in the community. But there might still be some people that might not know about the campaign. So why do you feel that this is still important?
So I think that's a good question. And 6 or 7 years in, we have to ask ourselves that a lot. Is it still important? And we think that it is. I think that there are still school environments, there are still work environments, there are still restaurants, grocery stores, anywhere where people come together, where the discrimination against people with intellectual disabilities still exists. And I don't think that anyone would seriously say that we've all moved on from the R word or other hurtful labels towards people with intellectual disabilities. But at the same time, I think what people are starting to say is that we're learning more about the negative impact that we've had on people with intellectual disabilities. We're learning more about how hurtful, isolating, stigmatizing, excluding words like the R word are, and other behaviors towards people with intellectual disabilities. And I think that speaks to the power of Spread the Word as an educational and engagement campaign. We're really not a campaign about trying to remove a word from the English language. What we're really trying, or any language for that matter, what we're really trying to do is take the opportunity to teach people who might not understand the impact of this word, to be able to say, to tell people, you can say whatever you want to, but be mindful of the consequences of what you say. Be mindful that if you use this word, it has these incredibly powerful negative impacts on people like my sister, on people like all of my friends who are Special Olympics athletes, on people like my friends and classmates who are in the special education department. I mean, just be mindful of the impact that this has. And now that we've shared that impact with you, go forward and hopefully change the way that you speak. But no one's forcing you to.
Yeah.
So I think that we're continuing to find importance in educating and then engaging people once they do come to understand it. Because once they understand it, then they say, this is really powerful. I've never thought about it this way. I want to be engaged with this community even more. And it's a great gateway to further volunteering, to further friendship.
Yeah, I think that and I think that even ties in with the article that you and Tim had co-authored on the Huffington Post this week that we'll get to in a moment. But first, maybe share with us some of the feedback you've heard from the community this past week about the campaign from people who have taken the pledge and have been involved with taking action both person to person and it seems like online and on social media. There's been a lot of articles and videos and pictures that people have been sharing. So share some of the feedback that you've seen.
That's right. So we've continued to have incredible engagement, and I think that there are a couple points to be made there. One, this is our 7th annual event, and if you would have asked us 6 or 7 years ago, how many times do you think you'll be able to do it before either it gets old or people start to lose interest? And we would have told you that number was way lower than 7.
Yeah.
So to see this being the 7th annual one, and to have this year, we had close to 25,000 people pledge on Wednesday, which is in line with what we've had in the past 6 or 7 years. So we continue to get, and keep in mind that those are new people.
Yeah.
You don't have people who are taking the pledge each and every year. These are 25,000 new people who come into it. And what we've seen and what we've hoped for all along is that we have this incredible engagement on the one day, which is why we designed one particular day. We wanted to really focus everyone's attention on that. But at the same time, we have dozens of events that are lined up throughout the rest of March, throughout the February to April time window. So people are taking it and making it work for them in their own schools. People, whether it's because they have spring break in the beginning of March, so they need to have the event later in the month, whatever the circumstances might be. So we've seen people take it and move it to fit their schedule. What I will say is that I would really encourage people to take a look at our website at r-word.org, because we've got the videos and the pictures up there are incredible. I was looking through our video channel earlier. I mean, there are videos of schools in India that are having Spread the Word to End the Word events. There are schools across the country that are having them, and we see that what was one of the most gratifying things, and one I think is an exciting indicator of change, is that what we saw 6 or 7 years ago was people who were surprised by this, or people who saw this as something brand new to them in their school. What we're seeing now is, here it comes again, and here I'm coming to expect this as part of my school culture, as part of my school environment. When is it going to be March so we can have this event again?
Yeah.
And we have, and that's so powerful, because we have juniors and seniors in high school who have been involved, who show up to their college campuses and say, all right, what are we doing at this college now that I'm here as a freshman come March, and how do I engage my college community? So we've seen it grow with so many of these people as they've made it their own. And I think that we're in a place where we have incredible engagement, person to person on the campus level, like I was talking about. But if you looked through the so-called blogosphere on Wednesday, whether that was more informal blogs, whether that was large platform blogs. There were I saw a dozen, 2 dozen, more than that, blogs about the R word, whether it was by parents of people with intellectual disabilities, whether it was from incredible self-advocates, whether it was from siblings, friends who took the time, even if it was just in 100, 200, 300 words, to say, here's how the word affects me. Here's how you should think about it differently. Now go do it.
Yeah.
Or even just people on Facebook, Twitter. I mean, all of it was coming together. I mean, I'm not a big Twitter user, but we had over, I want to say, about 30 million social media impressions on Wednesday around all of our different R word materials. So we were really excited and had some great partners as well, whether from celebrities like John C. McGinley, Maria Shriver, a number of big celebrities, or teams like the Washington Wizards. We had great support from the WWE. We had a lot of people on our team making sure that this worked, and this worked well.
Yeah, neat. We're gonna take a short break now, but when we come back, I think it'll be a good time to talk about here in Illinois. Their theme was called Got Respect, which is like the Got Milk campaign. Then we'll also talk about the article that you and Timbo had co-authored on the Huffington Post, plus some more reactions about the Spread the Word to the World campaign right after. So you're listening to the Special Chronicles podcast right here on SpecialChronicles.com, and we'll be right back after this short break. Stick around. This episode brought to you by Pace Suburban Bus. Pace helps get you where you need to go. Every day, Pace helps more and more people with disabilities take control of their day. On Pace's fixed routes, you won't have to book your rides a day in advance. And with a fixed route system that has over 200 routes that are entirely accessible to people with disabilities, you'll be able to go where you want, when you want. And best of all, many people with disabilities ride Pace for free or for half price. When you're ready to take control of your day and learn more, visit pacebus.com. That's pacebus.com, or call 847-364-PACE. That's 847-364-PACE. Pace, connecting communities. This episode is also sponsored by Chicago Army Navy Soul Plus Store in Downers Grove, Illinois. When was the last time you were in an Army Soul Plus store looking for a cool backpack or shoulder bag, camouflage pants or jackets? Do you like collecting or just looking at military stuff from around the world? If so, then go to Facebook and visit Chicago Army Navy Soul Plus, located in Downers Grove, Illinois. Or go to their website, chiarmy.com. That's chiarmy.com. A cool store, great stuff, and friendly people. This episode is also sponsored by Flocknote. Does your parish ministry or organization struggle to keep everyone in the loop? You want a simple solution, something that just works? Well, Flocknote.com was made for you. Quiz many lists as you like, then import the contacts that you already have, or simply let your members subscribe to your activities themselves via the web, or by letting them send a text message right from their phone. It's never been easier to click up-to-date contact info and then to send your groups an email or text message at the click of a button. Try a free trial today at Flocknote.com.
And this episode also sponsored by Bluehost. Want to start your own blog or professional website? Then consider using Bluehost. For only $6.95 per month or less, you can have your own professional website or blog. Click on specialchronicles.com/sponsors and click on the Bluehost banner for more information.
Tim Shriver Jr., and I'm the co-founder of Spread the Word and the Word. I'm just excited to be on this pioneering show, this pioneering project, Special Chronicles. Absolutely, Chicago is once again becoming the location of a new revolution in voice and in representation and Yeah, it's been a special place for a long time. I mean, it's been 40 some years since Special Olympics launched there in Chicago at Soldier Field, and almost 50 years later, another huge project, Special Chronicles, launching in that same town. It holds a lot of special power there in Chicago. I also just want to thank you, Dan, for inviting me on and for creating Special Chronicles. It's such an incredible innovation, and it's an incredible project you've taken on that you have worked so hard on for 5 years, taken from a small podcast to a new media company and a nonprofit. The work you put in shows so strongly, and the fact that you create this show not just to give voice for yourself, but to give voice to so many Special Olympics athletes and so many people across our community. It's such a powerful idea, such a powerful action, such a powerful creation. So thank you for all the work you do. I just can't wait to see the next episode and see what comes next. Thank you, and I hope you guys all have a great day.
My name is Kerry Magro, and I am a national speaker. Great getting to talk to you. I really believe that your program is phenomenal. I got a chance to check out Special Chronicles, and there's just a lot of great interviews with a wider range of speakers who all have different qualifications, and it's really cool to see. I really have a lot of high hopes for this show, and would love to come back on as a guest in the future. So please keep me posted on ways that I can get involved.
This is Brianna Alyssa, and you're listening to Special Chronicles. Every free chance I have, I tune into Special Chronicles podcasts at specialchronicles.com.
You're listening to Special Chronicles Podcast. And here is your host.
This is Daniel, host of the Special Chronicles Podcast, while you're on specialchronicles.com. And we'll still joined virtually in the studio by our friend Soeren Palumbo, co-founder of Spread the Word in the World. Welcome back, Soeren.
Glad to be back, Dan.
So, moving on, we were talking about before the break about some of the articles and the feedback from the community. So, as our listeners may know, you and Timbo had co-authored an article again on the Huffington Post called "Spread This: Be Good to People with Intellectual Disabilities," and then I also in the Bugle newspapers, which is in Will, Cook, and DuPage counties in Illinois, I wrote a column about how the L word affected me. That you had what too, so kind of going off those two. But what did you both decide to write this article, and why this simple message?
So I think let me take a step back. So we try to write, Timbo and I try to write an op-ed style article every year, and we do that because we think it's important to give a message to people around this campaign. I think that when we started 7 years ago, this, and we were talking about this before the break, that this was a new idea for a lot of people. Yeah. It was a very old idea for a lot of other people who grew up with the discrimination, who grew up with this prejudice, who grew up knowing what the R word meant. But it was very new to a very wide audience. And we knew that since it was so important for us to position Spread the Word, or to make Spread the Word an education campaign around really an idea that people didn't know a lot about, that it was important to put out our version of that, or it was important for us to articulate that in writing every year. And it gave us a good opportunity every year to give kind of a state of the campaign moment that we could go out and talk about. Here's how things are going. So every so often I'll go back and read the ones that we wrote 5 or 6 years ago, and I'll say, wow, like 5 years ago we wrote this one, and we were so excited about being able to have engaged 20,000 people total, and now we're looking at 500,000. We're looking at even many more than that. So we love that. It does give us this opportunity to reflect each year, but it also gives us an opportunity to see where we've been, but also to think even more about where we want to go. So when we sat down and wrote the one for this year, we said, we've over these past so many years, we've really focused on we focused our writing, mine and Tim's, on the word, on the power of language, on the power of words. And we thought to ourselves this year, a lot of other people are going to give great thoughts on that topic. A lot of other people are going to talk really powerfully on language and on words. Maybe we could use this opportunity to pull the lens back even further and remind people that what we're doing is much bigger than one word. It fits into a many part effort to improve the world for people with intellectual disabilities, which in turn improves the world for all people. So that was the angle I think that we wanted to bring this year.
Yeah, I think that's neat. And do you think that this message that you guys will tie into the future of the campaign of bringing awareness to be good to people with intellectual disabilities? Do you think is this the next step into the future for future years of the campaign?
I think so, and I think that that's been bubbling up for a couple of years, and I think you see that in a couple different places. I think one, you see it in a campaign like the one that Special Olympics Illinois has put out their Got Respect campaign. I think people are realizing that what's much more powerful than talking about pulling a word out of the English language is instead putting a concept into people's lives, which is respecting others and enhancing the world for our fellow human beings and with our fellow human beings. So I think that as Spread the Word matures and really comes into its own, we'll see it be more and more focused on understanding itself as one part of that overall effort, and being, if it needs to be, being a first step for people. Being that first entry point into this new world for many of people with intellectual disabilities. Now that you've engaged with Spread the Word, here's Special Olympics, here's Best Buddies, here's a program in your school that brings together people from general and special education departments. And here are all these opportunities to come together. So I'm hopeful that Spread the Word can be that first engagement point that leads to much more.
Also, and I think some people, as you know, may bring up the freedom of speech, how by getting rid of the word, it goes against their freedom of speech rights, but by bringing the message to be more respectful and to be good to people with intellectual disabilities is a much bigger message to get across to people in bringing awareness.
That's right, and I think that you bring up a good point, which is one that people like to put out there, which is that people do have a First Amendment right to say close to whatever they want. There are some limits on it, but certainly not a limit that you can't use the R word. So I do want to be clear that Spread the Word, since it first started, was never interested in banning the R word or in trying to get any sort of government intervention to prevent people from using the R word. It was always more on educating people and acknowledging right up front that you can say whatever you want to. If you choose to use this word, here are some consequences that follow. And similarly, just as someone has a protected right to use the R word, we within Spread the Word have a just as protected right to remind them that that it has these consequences. So I'll leave that. I don't think that there's all much to be made with the freedom of speech argument.
No.
But I do like to bring it up and then sort of put it aside because it is tough to learn from.
Yeah, it is. So you talked about the backstory of how you guys had wrote the article in the Huffington Post, but did you guys both sit down on a Skype call or to write this, or did you write a draft for the article and then Timbo wrote a draft, or show kind of how you guys both, some of that story of how you guys both went about to co-author the article?
Yeah, so Timbo and I we've been co-authoring things for a while, so we're pretty used to each other's writing styles and working styles. So we typically will have one of the two of us sit down and write a pretty basic first draft, where one of us, we'll talk on the phone for a couple of times when we know we've got a deadline coming up, and we'll hash out some ideas over the phone, and then one of us will say, okay, I'll take a first crack at this, and then that person will sit down, and it'll be pretty rough. I mean, there might be a couple of paragraphs and a couple of bullet points. They're not all complete sentences. And then we'll take it. That person will take it and they'll share it with the other one. So this year, I sat down and wrote the rough draft of the article for this year, and it wasn't. If you look at the rough draft and what got published, they're two. You can see some similarities, but there's a lot of big difference. There's a very big difference. So we'll share that back and forth, and we both bring I think pretty complementary perspectives. Timbo is very good at the campaign organization angle and the youth leadership angle, and writing in a style that calls people to action. And that is a big part of everything that we write together. And I think that my focus tends to be a little bit more on the underlying ideas and writing about, when we write about the power of language, that's something that really, really intrigues me, that I like to really dig deep into. And also, with the one this year, really digging deep into this idea of, what is spread the word? What does it mean to spread a word? What does it mean to end a word? What's the difference between things that are simple and things that are easy? Sometimes simple things are hard. Sometimes easy things are complicated. So digging deep into that, but still being able to pull it back together with Timbo and come up with something that we think a lot of people will like to read. What's a good indicator for us is that when I write something that Timbo enjoys reading, and when Timbo writes something that I enjoy reading, then we start to have a good idea that maybe possibly some other people out there might enjoy it. Because sometimes I'll write something that he'll read, he'll say that I'm not enjoying this at all. And then I'll know it's a good time to take a step back and rewrite it. It's a good initial sounding board.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So kind of tying into the future of the campaign, we mentioned a little bit about that earlier, with the theme for the article that you guys wrote, but also kind of share some of your thoughts about the column that I had wrote in the Bugle, and I had some quotes from my sister, who's a grad student in physical therapy, and kind of from the medical view, how she's in her mid 20s too, and kind of how I think the language is leading into a more respectful language. To kind of share some of your thoughts about that column, as we lead into the future of the campaign.
Yeah, so I think that I've got a lot of different angles on that. The first one is that I absolutely loved your column.
Thanks.
and I thought that you did a great job, as you always do as a self-advocate. So I'll acknowledge that. We'll
Thanks.
put that to the side. I think that even so, the work that you did was fantastic. As we talk about moving forward within Spread the Word, there are a couple of other points to be made. One is the huge importance that we put on the voice of self-advocates, especially in written form.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had whether it's come from you, whether it's come from Frank Stevens, we've had other incredible writers who are self-advocates, and Timbo and I always sit there and we're like, you know what, these guys write such good stuff, and Timbo and I, like, we just want to get out of the way, right? We're so excited to see whether it's you, whether it's Frank, whether it's these other writers who come up and say, you know, here's what we really want to put out there. We're just excited that maybe now we start to construct a platform that you guys can speak from. So. So that's another piece. So yours was great. The importance of self-advocates is a huge part of what we do. But I think the third part of it, which your column hit on, is the importance of the personal story in all of this. I think that one thing that we reflected on in our column, which ties back into this, is we see a lot of numbers, like 500,000 people have taken a pledge, or, you know, we've engaged between 10 and 15 million people with handwritten pledges as well. And sometimes we forget that each one of those has a story behind it. Each one of those has a reason that they took a pledge, whether it's a brother and a sister like you and your sister, whether it's a brother and her sister like me and my sister, whether it's a friend that they've had, whether it's a Special Olympics teammate, whether it's an aunt, an uncle. Each person has an incredibly rich story that's behind their reason to take a pledge to improve the world for people with intellectual disabilities.
Yeah.
So I think that so the importance of story in all of this is huge, and then I'll hit on the last one that you brought up, which is the importance of, or the legacy of, medical language, and the importance of the medical field when we talk about people with intellectual disabilities. So as you know, I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, the R word came from, it was a medical diagnostic term for a long time. And we do have to acknowledge that history. And when we talk about it, we need to be very smart about, or we need to be very aware that what we're talking about is the R word as it's used in everyday language, not as it's used in a medical context. And even if we were talking about a medical context, the R word has been outdated in a medical context for years.
Yeah.
That whether you talk about the American Psychiatric Association or other ones, the medical community has moved on from the word retard and retarded for many years ago. So when your sister talks about a trend around the R word becoming unacceptable, that's a trend in the medical community, and what we're hoping is that there's also that same trend in the wider community.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not, the need for intervention is becoming less and less because people are growing up just understanding that the R word is something that we don't tolerate in society.
Yeah, absolutely. And also another person who you may know and is a good friend of Special Chronicles is Rob Johnson from CBS 2 here in Chicago, who has a brother with Down syndrome, and Rob had been a guest on the show in the past, and he said he made a couple points about when people use the R word, but one thing he said is that when people use the R word, they don't have a good command of the English language.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about what he said with that? That quote I wrote in on the Special Olympics blog. Wine had published another article that I wrote a year ago, and I had wrote that quote that Rob had said. But what do you think about what Rob has said about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, first, I think that Rob's a great guy. and his experience with his brother is something I'm always excited to learn more about. I think that he certainly got a point, and I would elaborate on it by saying I think that when people use the R word, whether or not they have a command of the English language, what they're showing themselves to not have is an understanding of the impact that the English language has on people. Yeah. And whether or not they're particularly facile with words, it's that they don't understand what their words are doing, and understanding that the word that they're using is causing as much, if not more, pain to someone with intellectual disability as would a punch in the face. I mean, there are people with, right? I mean, I certainly for me as a brother of someone with intellectual disability, when I hear the word, it hurts more than getting hit with something physically. Yeah. So a misunderstanding of the power that our words have and the amount of great joy our words can bring to other people, but the depths of pain that they can bring to other people as well. And I think that all this ties back in, which is what we're trying to do is just educate people on that one topic that we think that there's a great opportunity to. We think that we can come in and say, as a teaching moment, here's what your words are doing. Now just go out and be mindful of that.
Absolutely. So we have about 20 minutes left in the show, and we still have some most segments after this. But how can I always link on the resources page on SpecialChronicles.com and in the show notes for this episode, which is 134, a link to all-word.org. But how can a listener either connect with you online or with the Spread the Word to In the Word campaign on both the website and on social media?
Mm-hmm. So people can certainly find us at our website, r-word.org, and they can certainly find us on Facebook as well, by just searching Spread the Word to End the Word on Facebook. And they can follow us on Twitter. Let me make sure that I give you the right Twitter handle, because I am not the master of the Twitter, but I want to make sure that they get the right one. So let me tell you, you can follow us on Twitter. So you can follow us at our website at r-word.org. You can find us on Facebook. You search Spread the Word to End the Word, and you can find us and follow us on Twitter. Our handle is at End the Word. So ENDTHEWORD. So you can follow us there and join our I think we have about 23,000 followers. So you can be 23,001, and we would be happy to have you.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to include those links for our listeners on SpecialChronicles.com. But before we let you get back to the rest of your Saturday and the weekend, do you have any final thoughts about our overall time together today that you want to share with our listeners?
Dan, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I think what you're doing is such a service to the community, and I think one thing that we talked about today is just how important it is to take the opportunity to teach people about these things, whether it's a word like the R word, whether it's how to engage people with intellectual disabilities in schools, how to bring all people together in the workplace, in the community, is an emphasis on teaching, on learning together, on coming together, on engaging each other. And I think what you're doing for your thousands of listeners and now hundreds of very, very excited guests on your show is bring that message in a new way, in an exciting way, in an entertaining way. And we, whether it's with Spread the Word, whether it's with Special Olympics, we're so excited to have your voice be part of the movement that we're driving together.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to thank you again for taking the time to come on the show, and look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks a lot, Daniel. Take care.
Take care. Like to make that call. This happens when you use technology. I'd like to thank someone for taking the time to come on the Special Chronicles podcast.
This is Brianna Alyssa, and you're listening to Special Chronicles. Every free chance I have, I tune into Special Chronicles Podcasts at SpecialChronicles.com.
Listening to Special Chronicles Podcast. And here is your host.
This is Daniel. Yes, this is Daniel, host of the Special Chronicles Podcast, broadcasting right here on SpecialChronicles.com. And so thankful for the great conversation that we had with Soeren in the first two segments of today's show.
And this episode is brought to you by listeners like you. Please join our supporters with a monthly or one-time donation so we can operate our studio and continue our mission, giving respect and voice to people with disabilities. Visit SpecialChronicles.com/give. That's SpecialChronicles.com/give to donate now. And if you want to access our bonus content, you can join now at SpecialChronicles.com/plus. And support for Special Chronicles comes from the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program, the country's first energy and solar efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. Learn more at SpecialChronicles.com/ComEd. That's SpecialChronicles.com/ComEd. And support for Special Chronicles comes from United Airlines Bridge Disability Business Resource Group, connecting people of all abilities. Learn more on United's commitments to disability inclusion for employment and travel at SpecialChronicles.com/United. That's SpecialChronicles.com/United. And a few final plugs as we wrap up this episode. You can shop our merchandise store, our Disabled Voices Matter merch with t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs. You can shop our store knowing that 60% of the profits support us. You can shop right now at SpecialChronicles.com/shop. That's SpecialChronicles.com/shop. And tap that follow button so you never miss a new episode on this week and next couple of weeks. We are having a rebroadcast series of a few of our episodes related to the Spread the Word campaign. So hopefully you guys learned a little bit more about the importance of Spread the Word and in particular the theme of derogatory language and hearing from from one of the Spread the Word co-founders, Soeren Palumbo, on this episode. But next week, the theme will be stand up to bullying, and we will be having another sibling on to talk about an article that she wrote about the little bus, the short bus, and how advocates like her are standing up for bullying as another theme of this year's Spread the Word campaign. And then the week after that, we'll be talking about inclusive action with that theme and speaking with the Chief of Global Youth and Education and Special Olympics, Dr. Jackie Jodo, as and to couple the theme of inclusive action. And so that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned to this. You can hear more of our Spread the Word episodes on SpecialChronicles.com/SpreadTheWord. All those links will be in the show notes in the description below. So we hope you all have enjoyed this episode, and we'll be back next week with another episode. And remember to go and take the pledge, SpreadTheWord.Global. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place, right here on SpecialChronicles.com. Catch you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smrokowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, SpecialChronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes absolutely for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, SpecialChronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks as always to our business manager, Adam Smrokowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smrokowski, back next week with more stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Podcast. Our podcast was produced by Daniel Smrokowski on the Special Chronicles Network. Follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our website, specialchronicles.com, where you can stream our archives of over 500 episodes for free. Also, there's a list of our favorites, original series, award-winning columns, and blogs. And sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Again, specialchronicles.com. Special Chronicles is hosted by Podbean Podcast Hosting. Our live streams are powered by StreamYard. Thanks as always to our business manager, Adam Smrokowski, who always encourages us to never give up. I'm Daniel Smrokowski, back next week with more stories.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.